Wonderful. Great. So just a quick overview. This program has taken on different forms over the years, and previously it was really about supporting faculty with time and resources to apply for grants and different various faculty-based cohorts that were partnering across different CSUs. We really were trying to reimagine how we could fit more into the strategic goals of each campus and the chancellor's office programs as well. And so last year, I worked with the CSU-WATER team to really think about how we could reimagine this process and to provide different pathways, knowing maybe not all faculty in our position are ready yet to apply for grants. There's a lot of classroom-based activities that could be woven into this. And so, if you're part of the previous cohorts before this new program revamp, as I mentioned previously, this was really just about incentivizing through financial resources, faculty to have the time and space to work on grants and to submit them. This took on various forms for different reasons. And so, what we often found is that a lot of faculty were successful in getting grants, but we also had cases where grant sources would cease to exist halfway through the process. We see a lot of that on the federal level now. Other opportunities where faculty were just not able to because of workload or needing to teach courses had the capacity to do this. So really, we thought that we could just think about how to channel this in different pathways to make it fit the various needs of faculty, but to also really start building relationships with our community agency partners and ensuring that students were getting involved in the process.
Mhm. Sorry, could I add on to that for a second?
Absolutely.
Bigger. So this is great effort by Jennifer by revamping this program, and then she just explained what we used to do, and there were a number of issues with that. For example, do you fund all the PIs on a project and what funding they're going for? There's different probabilities, and then there's moving money around, and then what's the end result and who gets credit for what and what the overall impact is. So as she's going to explain here, the new programmatic areas she created and we're rolling out have more impact and fit more closely with the mission and the strategic plan of CSU-WATER and what we talk about on a day-to-day basis, not only internally in the CSU, but with our external partners, preparing the future workforce, integration of that golden triangle between communities, faculty, and students. And that fits in so much better with our overall branding and marketing and what CSU-WATER is, and people recognize that. So when we have students rolled out and community members, that's a tangible thing that they can understand versus grant funding. That's something that's so academic and not accessible to so many. So for all these reasons, it really connects so much better with our overall operations and what we're doing. So everyone here is a part of that. Thanks, Jennifer.
Um, my name is Mansoor Sefer. I teach at the Department of Construction Management at the Hayward East Bay. Last 7, 8 years. I teach my students how to design, the buildings and the green buildings that they use less water, less energy, and use much more environmentally friendly material in order to improve the indoor air quality, everything like that. So my education is in hydrology and water resources. That's why I like to see what exactly this water the CSU is for. What should I do? Is it really related to my area or is it a different thing I need to focus on? That's why I'm interested to really know what needs to be done.
Great, and thank you for joining us today. We can also provide opportunities to meet with us one-on-one to discuss any ideas you have. This is just one piece of CSU-WATER. There's lots of different components that's particularly that Steve's been heading up. So anytime we can meet one-on-one with faculty, we're happy to do that. So to highlight our three program areas, the first is our classroom to community. This provides $2,000 for the entire cohort. So it's not per faculty. In the past, each faculty member was getting a pot of money associated with the work that they were doing. This is just per cohort applicant. So on a given application, you may or may not have other faculty members listed. You may have community partners. So this is just a one-time funding transfer for the work. And we'll get into the details of how the administrative side of it works in one moment. But the classroom to community, this is really trying to bridge what we're doing in the classroom out towards agencies, nonprofits, and other community organizations that are working on water issues. And the idea here is for students to start really getting hands-on experiences, starting to be exposed to workforce opportunities, and building their resume with these types of activities that can be done. And we'll have an example of that in just a few minutes. Program Area 2, this is our Community University Agency Research Cohort Pilot Program. This pilot program offers $5,000 per cohort to blend opportunities for faculty, student, and community teams for pilot case studies, really focused on watershed resiliency and water issues. This really helps to create a pilot program to where you could then be better positioned to apply for larger grants. We also have the establishing community partnerships, and I'll take questions in just 1 second, please. And so this one is more mimicking our traditional program that we had, where it's aligning cohorts of faculty, students, and a community partner to apply for grants. So this may be the case where you already have pilot work done, or you've got some data sets, or you've already got some proof of concept, and you're better positioned to then apply for grant resources. Nope. So the general timeline, so that you can all plan effectively for this, is in the fall semester, we're doing our call for applications. So you guys have seen those calls come out. This year, we have the December 20th deadline, and that is a Qualtrics form that you fill out. You can select your pathway, and there's a series of questions that you can ask, or that are going to be asked of you. It also asks how you're going to include students in the process and what the funding resource will be. We convene in January with a committee to look at the applications and to rank them. So we have our criteria, and we seek faculty from all through the CSU system to participate in this. It is a blind review. We redact all the information about a given campus or anything that would identify specific faculty to try to make it as fair and equitable as possible. In February, towards the end of February, sometimes early March, depending on the load of the committee, we announced those awardees. And I want to emphasize that we are always available to meet with you. So during the application process, if you have questions or you're thinking of an idea, you're not quite sure if it works. If you're in an area where you want to work with a community partner or agency, but you're unaware of the best person to work with, we can help you vet those types of questions. Also, after you get the award, we are here for you. I hold office hours each month, and so you can join those office hours, ask questions. If you're getting stuck or there's any kind of barriers, we can help to walk you through those. We can also meet, I know schedules are crazy, so we can also meet when you have time as well. We do require in May that you attend an orientation. So this walks you through all of the requirements. We ensure that everyone can access our shared drives, can all of the reporting links work for you, and that everyone is on the same page before you begin the process. So even though you get an award letter for this year and that you're told that you will have these funds, we also notify your dean as well. We do not start this process until the following academic year. So in August, September 2026, which is hard to think it's going to be that already, we will that's kind of when it kicks off. And so what we ask is that you fill out a form that kind of gives us your progress, lets us know what you're doing. It's a simple Google form, and this helps us to identify anyone that may be stuck in a project so that we can work with them one-on-one to help move their project and ideas forward. I want to emphasize that our funding cycle is a little off. It doesn't follow quite the fiscal year. And so while the CSU system has the June, July fiscal year that we're all familiar with, the funding actually being transferred into CSU-WATER typically does not occur until October or November. So if you are starting a project in August, September, you will not receive your funding until October or November because we simply do not have it. It's not being transferred from the chancellor's office into our account. So it's something to consider as you're thinking about your schedule, when you'll need resources, purchasing, and things of that nature. Once we receive those funds, we will check to ensure that you've done your progress report has been submitted. And once we see that that's been submitted, we will work with your administrative staff to transfer the funds. Each campus has different types of restrictions on how funding is used. For us, because you've already told us what you will be using it on, once we transfer it, it's up to you and your campus how that funding gets administered out and the uses and purchasing orders and things of that nature. We do this because, again, every campus is different. Some have restrictions that others do not. And so we are no longer part of the actual process of how you spend those funds once it gets to your campus. As far as deliverables, you have the progress report that would be submitted before funds are transferred, and that lets us know that you're well on your way, there's no barriers, that you're ready, set, go. And then we also have a final report form. So both of these are simple Google forms that help us capture what your project progress is, that it's been completed, and other types of attributes that we can then promote. We have a uploaded project shared Google Drive for photos. And then we also have the requirement that you create just a very simple research poster that highlights your work. And this enables us to push this type of information and really promote your work out on social media through webinars on our website. And then we can also display these at the annual CSU-WATER conference, which typically happens in April of each year. The other caveat that I will say is that some people have projects that will only last one semester, while others will have one that lasts the entire academic year. So in the case where you have a project that is just, for instance, and ends in the fall semester, all of your deliverables would be due at the end of December. If it's in the spring, we require that all the deliverables are going to be due in May. If it's a year-long project, everything's due in May, okay? And we send reminders. Are constantly kind of reminding you to make sure that you get those forms in on time. So I'm going to pause here because we have a couple of awardees, and I'm going to ask them to share some of their experiences. And I'm going to stop my screen share here. So I see that Heidi's here. If you don't mind kicking us off and telling us a little bit about your project, your experience, and any kinds of recommendations that you would have for future applicants. Thank you.
Yeah, hi, good morning. My name is Heidi Contreras, and I'm an assistant professor at Cal State San Bernardino. And I was so lucky to find out about this program. It kind of aligned perfectly with when I first started at Cal State San Bernardino with the ideas that I was bringing in that I wanted to implement here as in my new position. So I'm in the biology department and I'm trained as a comparative physiologist. So before coming to Cal State San Bernardino, my focus in my lab was working with insects. We're looking at uh, metabolic rates and how different foraging behaviors would affect metabolism in insects. Completely foreign to, well, not completely, but tangent to what my focus here at Cal State San Bernardino now is. I really wanted to change my program so that students could find importance in what they were working on. I mean, I had a lot of students that would come into my lab because they wanted to work on kissing cockroaches and their metabolism, but I probably lost a lot of students because they couldn't, really see the connection into their day-to-day lives. So before I came in, I wanted to have a connection with our local communities and work on issues that would be relevant to our local communities so that students that were coming from our local communities could see the importance of the work that they were doing in the lab with me. And I came from a liberal arts college, so I tended to work with mostly undergraduate students. And here at San Bernardino, I'm teaching first year biology students. So for me, it was really important to have a topic that would be engaging to students really early on in their professional development so that they could see themselves working in my lab. They could see how what we were doing in my lab would relate to something that back home would be relevant, and they could talk about with their parents or family, etc. And they could also see growth beyond my lab. So I applied to the program my first year here, so 2023. Um, and like I said, I knew nothing about water research. That was really not my thing at all. So the reason I originally applied was to be able to connect to the CSU Water uh, network. Just be able to meet people that were doing the work or this type of work already at the Cal State, and then be able to use the funding that I was going to get through the fellowship to be able to find community partners. So the first year, I used the money to be able to connect with the San Bernardino Water Municipality Department. And what I did was to start and kind of develop an idea for courses with undergraduate research experiences that I could implement in my first year class. So I don't know, can I share a little bit? Can I share my presentation? Is a couple slides just to show you a general idea of the flow of my class. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Let me pull it up. Oh, nope, sorry, that's the wrong tab. I had it ready, but now I'm nervous. So the first year bio here was actually not doing so great. So they hired us to kind of revamp first year bio in comparison to other Cal States. The first year bio here was had a really high DFW rate. So they wanted us to come in and really reinvent the wheel a bit, and definitely wanted us to use cures in the first year. So I had the privilege of not having to convince my department to allow me to do a cure in our labs. They wanted us to do that. So I came in with that privilege. So I wanted to develop a community engaged cure because I thought that that would be a really good way to, again, just have students understand the value of what they were learning in the lab that first year and connect it with, issues that were going on outside of our lab, outside of the school, so they could think it was important. Um, so in general, what we do in this first year class is we're still employing just the basic fundamental knowledge that all first year biology students need to get that first year. So these are lab techniques like learning how to use pipetters, doing dilutions, looking through a microscope. So we're really doing all those basic, not basic, but fundamental skills that they need to get that first year. But the way that we're employing those is now to answer a research question that focuses on water quality. So students learn how to work in groups, they learn those techniques, but they're also thinking about how to be scientists. So they're reading scientific papers, they're communicating their science. At the end of the semester, they present or their research poster. I do a little mini water symposium for them and invite community members from our college to come and ask them about their work. And we're doing that along with the San Bernardino Water Municipality Department. So the way that kind of our cure proceeds is at the beginning of the semester, within the first couple of weeks, we invite our collaborators to come to campus and just introduce the work that they do in their department. A lot of our students have never thought about where their drinking water comes from. So they get introduced to the process of how they get water into their houses. They learn about chemicals that are cleaned out from that water, etc. And they get to speak with our collaborators about future jobs, maybe skills that they might want to hone in on if they wanted to continue developing as water specialist. After that, we spend a couple of weeks for students just to learn different techniques on how to test water. So we have chemical assays that we do so that they could bring samples of their drinking water from their homes or other parts of their community. And so they're able to test things like phosphorus and nitrogen, dissolved oxygen, et cetera. They learned the techniques to do that. After they've learned those basic techniques, we kind of switch gears and start thinking about what their research project is going to focus on. So students develop their own hypothesis. They think about all the methods that they learned those previous weeks, which methods will make sense with the project that they're interested in. And then they develop a research proposal. And what we do is we invite our partners, they're pictured here on the right. We invite our partners to come back and listen to the students' research proposals so that they could provide some feedback to our students as to, based off of their expertise, what are some things that they could add on to their project. So down here is an example of that first year's cohort. All the little red dots in there are points of where they brought back water samples from. So what we hope to do as this program continues is be able to share this database with our partners so that students are bringing in water samples from wherever they live. So hopefully this map fleshes out. And attached to this is an Excel sheet where we're keeping track of all the chemical analysis that we do in the lab. They do some research looking at bacterial growth associated with the quality of water that they're interested in testing. So we're hoping to share this database with our partners as it continues to grow. So after that research proposal, students get to work. They start conducting their projects. And then, like I said, at the end, they analyze their data. They put poster presentations together. And I forgot to add pictures of our little water conference, but they put posters similar to what we would do at the CSU-WATER. I have them come to the first floor of our biology department building, and they just stay there for 3 hours, and we invite people to come in and walk and ask them questions. I've opened up the mini water conference to other people, other faculty and students around campus that are also working on water issues. So Dr. Alfred has sent some of her fellows over our way, but people from public health, faculty from public health and students have also come and presented. So students really get a good feel of what it might be like to go to a conference and present their work. So the goal of my program, the expected outcomes, is that we have students obviously gaining some skills and knowledge and learning from this experience, but also faculty, myself, learning, networking, connecting with you guys, building collaborations that I couldn't dream of if I wasn't part of the network, getting grants and funding, that would be great. But also giving something back to our community partner. I think that was something also that I really wanted to think about because I don't want them to just come in, for a minute, do what they do, and then go back to where they're working from and there's no connection. So I really thought about what could we possibly provide for them. And so that database is one of the things that I thought would be helpful to them. They were really interested. Their comment was, we know what we do with our water before it reaches people's homes, or at least once it leaves our facility. But between when it leaves our facility and when they open up their tap water and what that water actually looks like, we really don't know. There's a lot of things that could happen from when the water leaves our facility to when they get access to it. So I feel the database that we're building will give them at least a little bit of a hint of what does the water look like at the faucet in these different communities. So that's kind of the gist of my my project. And now what I also applied this year, so I'm currently a fellow. And what I'm doing with this now is kind of growing the program. So it's a year-long course that I'm developing. What I showed you was the first semester of the program. This semester, I developed the second semester of the year-long class a little bit more. And then the hopes is that in my lab, I can incorporate a lot of what I'm learning through this class. So then there'd be a pipeline for students that go through my first year course, learning basic skills on water quality research. And then they would have an opportunity in my lab to continue to develop those ideas. And then I will hook them up with anybody else who might want to collaborate with us. And that's me. That's all.
Okay.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. So you can really see, you can be as creative as you want to be. And again, I want to emphasize that if you're coming up with an idea, but you're not quite sure who the partner might be, Steve's been working tirelessly since he's taken this position to build networks. And then you also have this network too. We have a lot of faculty there on the same campus. Some are newer, some have been around for a while. So again, we can help to facilitate those conversations. We have two more speakers to highlight their work. Jackie, do you mind going next, please?
Sure, I'm glad to.
Thank you.
So I'm Jackie Guilford. I'm at Sonoma State University, and I might have met several of you through different CSU water conferences, so it's good to see you again. I applied for the classroom to community piece of this last year, so I'm currently being funded. I am a little bit different because I'm a lecturer, and so because I'm a lecturer, I don't really have like year to year job security, really, especially at Sonoma State right now. So I don't have a lab with an ongoing project. I don't have a big multi-year grant. So having a small, I just kind of take small grants where I can. And so this was perfect for me. But similar to Heidi, I'm not trained as a water scientist at all. I'm a molecular biologist. And so I was teaching in the biology department at Sonoma State. And then I found my way over to environmental science, and I've been teaching a class, a small water research class that's mostly junior and seniors, so they're about to graduate. This year, I have 15, which is actually big for me. Um, Sometimes I only have like 6 students in this class, and it's wonderful because then they all get attention. And when we go out to do field work, everyone has equipment to hold and all that kind of stuff. So 15 is feeling kind of big, but they're doing great right now. And so I have my notes off to the side here. I'm trying to remember what I'm supposed to say. Yeah, so I have this water research methods class, and it's really great for the students, similar to everything that Heidi had on her slide, to get them job ready skills. A lot of the students that take my class do continue on to work for Sonoma Water or the City of Santa Rosa Water or some other water agency. And through being in my class, we make a lot of connections, and that's really been helpful for them, especially going to the CSU Water Conference. They meet people, they learn about grad programs. It's really cool for them. So where I needed the funding for myself is let me back up. So the class is basically built around us answering a research question posed by a community partner. Usually it's Sonoma Water, which is our county water provider, or the city of Santa Rosa, which manages our wastewater. And every year we reconnect with them and we say, what are you interested in? What data can we gather for you? Do you want us to continue on last year's project or pivot to something new? And so sometimes the project completely turns directions, which actually recently just happened. And so I am basically paid through the university to teach this class, and sometimes it's 1 unit and sometimes it's 2 units. But in reality, running a research group of 15 students takes a lot more time than a 1 or 2 unit class compensates for. So I've been able to pull supply money in for our project from small little grants. So our campus has a Waters grant that's mostly funded through local Sonoma County agencies. So I get some supply money from there. I have the benefit of a credit award this year through the university. And so I'm really good with finding supply money. Where I'm running into trouble is basically being compensated for all the time that I have to put into running this student research project. And so that's kind of where I applied for this grant, was like, hey, I'm putting in a lot of extra hours to make this research happen at Sonoma State. And so the Classroom to Community Award that I'm currently receiving, I was requesting for help supporting the time that I was putting into it. As far as the project itself, the different community partners over the years have asked for different questions to be answered. And so we've looked at invasive species removal and impact on the watershed. We've looked at monitoring water quality, specifically looking at bacterial levels upstream and downstream of homeless encampments in the city of Santa Rosa and the Santa Rosa's largest creek. That's what I applied. That was a project we were working on when I applied for the Classroom to Community Award. We've since had a pivot where our partners are asking us to categorize basically everything we can about our campus creek, Copeland Creek, which runs through the Sonoma State campus. So we're basically taking the skills we've learned from other projects and applying them to this current project on that's mostly focused on campus. Um, so I wanted to answer to provide some information about actually applying for the award. So again, as Jennifer had said, there's three different types of awards, and I had received funding for the Classroom to Community Award. And so I'm gonna drop I don't have slides, but I'm gonna drop a whole chunk of text in the chat. It's a lot. Um, but if you're interested in applying for the Classroom to Community Award, I received the $2,000. And then I just kind of put in there what the application questions were, because when you just open that application, you don't see these questions right away. So let's see, it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 questions, and most of them had a 100 to 200 word max. So it was not pages and pages, which hopefully makes you feel better. So the first thing I did when I was getting my application ready was I made sure I knew what the questions were going to be. And then I set up a meeting with Jennifer and I kind of described what I was needing. And I asked her, do you think I would be competitive for this award and any advice on filling out the application? So that was very helpful. I would definitely encourage you to meet with Steve or Jennifer to go over what you're looking to say and maybe any advice they would have on filling the application out based on your needs. Then I kind of just started a Google Doc with all of these questions, made some bullet points, wrote them out, and I was just very careful to keep going back and reading the question to make sure I was directly answering the question. I wasn't going off on some tangent that wasn't related to the question itself. And so this was really strongly based on the connection with my community partner. So I kept bringing it back to how the research we were doing would benefit our community partner and how my students would get job-ready skills from working with that community partner and networking. And trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to add. Um, I'm happy to take questions when the time comes, but that's basically what I was doing and how I went about the application.
Great. Thank you so much, Jackie. And then we have one more speaker real quick. Julian, if you could, hi, how are you?
Hi there,
Great. Thank
everyone.
you. Go ahead.
Yeah, this has been really cool just to hear stories, and that's one of the things I love about CSU Water is just like whatever the reason to get on a Zoom and just hear what other people are up to. I love hearing about what colleagues are doing. So I'm at Sacramento State, and I'm a professor in environmental studies, and I applied last year, so I'm a current recipient of the FIP, and I had been involved with WRPE, the predecessor to CSU Water, several years ago with their faculty program. And this one is just, I would just say, very organized, and Jennifer is very organized, and structured is something that I appreciate about this one. Just the fact that the three different types of programs, I forget what you call them, the opportunities. Helped me kind of just think through where I was at with my research and teaching and service and community engagement. Like it kind of makes you think about like, where am I at and what do I want to do going forward in a way that, as Steve, you mentioned earlier, like is aligned with the CSU Water mission. So that's nice just to sort of have something to a reason to think about where you're at and what you want to do. In my case, I'm kind of making or I have been making a pivot in the past 4 years. My background is more in like water resources management, in agriculture and energy, and just kind of desktop-y research that I was just finding boring and not able to connect with community engagement opportunities and classroom activities in particular. So I've gotten more involved in stormwater, which is similarly maybe wonky and engineering like, but also has a lot of opportunities to engage students in everyday kind of tasks. in particular, I kind of leverage what we do as a campus with local trash cleanups on the American River right next to our campus, and been able to leverage that kind of service activity that we do into a research and community engagement activity by kind of making it more data intensive and structured, and where students not only collect trash, but they are trained in how to collect data at the same time. And that data then serves what some of you might know as stormwater permittees. So under the discharge program, you have to have a permit to put stormwater out into the waters, and trash is one of the things that is regulated. So students learn about that regulatory environment, and they collect data that can then actually serve the permittee compliance. So that's something that we do for our campus, which is a permittee, but we've also gone off campus and worked with cities. So municipal governments have been one of our community partners that we've been able to do this kind of community engaged work with through classroom learning opportunities. But also I've been able to get funding from the EPA over the past few years to expand this project. So we are now running kind of what we call a participatory science network, or a citizen science network, in the Bay Area that provides high school internships and college internships. And we work with two nonprofits, a statewide one called Keep California Beautiful and a local one called Earth Team. And we are actually doing trash assessments in a very formal way that provides data to cities for their, government regulatory needs, essentially. So that's been kind of the more formal research part of it, but it provides classroom opportunities. And I liked how the application process for the FIP, back to that, kind of forces you to think through those components, right? And that it hits on all the components of our jobs as professors, as faculty, and that was just a useful process. Mine in particular, this year, what I'm using it for, because I've been reliant on grants, and as we all know, this kind of grant, especially federal grants, have kind of fallen through the floor, is to think through a future-focused business model for this work we're doing, and was able to leverage another CSU partner. Some of you might have heard about the EPIC network. We have an MOU with the EPIC network, and I had heard about them over the years, but knowing that we have a formal relationship allowed me to say, hey, we can make this, we can sort of leverage this towards an outcome in my project and take it to the next stage of implementation, I guess, prime time, if you will. And that's so the opportunity, the FIP opportunity that spoke most to me was the establishing funding streams one. Forget the exact name, but yeah, sort of where you have a pilot idea or pilot project going, and you want to sort of take it to the next stage. And in my case, we're actually not likely to be seeking more grants. We're going to try to make what we do as a campus for municipalities and with municipalities and these nonprofits is to this is what I'm working through with this project, is to make it sort of a fee for service model. And the EPIC network provides a lot of support around how to do that. They do that with lots of other universities that have centers that can run these kinds of contracts with municipal governments. And so that's kind of what I'm thinking through with this project right now. And that relationship's been really great. So last points just on tips on, developing ideas is, back to my original point, like what helped me was kind of just thinking through where I'm at, and with respect not just to research, but how to synergize other aspects of our jobs, the teaching and service and community engagement, and each funding opportunity, I think, emphasizes different things. But even though mine is supposed to be about funding research and establishing collaborative funding streams, like I still had to think through how I would bring that back to the classroom, and that's ultimately our bottom line, right? So that was good. And then, just lean on campus resources is my only other idea. Your offices of research and proposal development, like they can even help you with micro projects like proposals like this one. Um, and to the extent that you have can lean on them, do it. That's all I had, Jennifer. Thanks.
Great. Thank you so much. And he brings up a really great point. You can also use this funding support as a match, to go to academic research, to go to student research and say, hey, I've got some money. I need a little bit more to enhance whatever it is that you're doing. I know with student travel, that's often a barrier for our students. So those are other ways that you can kind of align different funding resources. So thank you to all of our speakers. We'll open the floor and take questions, and then I know Steve also has a couple remarks before we depart today.
Um, uh, as I said, uh, I'm teaching the environmental issues again at the Hayward campus here. I guess the most distinction that I can provide to my students, because I have about 32 years of the consulting in the water issues here in California with my own company. So I'm actually started 8 years ago as a lecturer. Now I'm teaching about 3 or 4 courses. They're not letting me go. And I just published a book 2 months ago about this environmental issues and green buildings. And my major concern is that they need my student to distinguish between the water, drinking water, with different kind of waters, because this is the drinking water that actually is a very precious commodity, but nobody appreciates it, especially here in United States. Everybody taking it as a granted, but they need to know that only 2.5% of the world water is drinking water. Rest of them are being in the oceans, in the brackish, or in Arctic's kind of frozen, out of the reach, or very deep water-bearing zones. So I like to kind of, first of all, I define the drinking water. What is the drinking water in California? What aquifers can be marked or can be classified as a drinking water source, and which aquifers or water bearing zones are not? So these are the things I have the major ideas how to evaluate safe drinking water, how much you can pump from underground storage, and actually what would be the allowable limit that you can keep pumping to be sustainable, because we are not allowed to dewater our water resources because of we need the water. No, you have to teach the students that there's a safe drinking water, like a safe yield, that beyond that, we are depriving the future generation from the same the advantage that we have, and it's not going to be sustainable. So I like to write a lot of proposal how to really encourage this sort of thing, but I'm a very new. This is my first meeting with you guys. I like to a little bit guidance to kind of walk me through so I can understand better and write the good proposals and then kind of contribute to this program, which I love to do that.
Great. Yes, thank you. Please reach out to me and Steve. We'll add our emails again in the chat at the end so everyone can capture it. But yeah, these are great for one-on-one if you have something specific or you're brainstorming an idea. So thank you so much.
And we could connect to the relevant water entities that oversee water quality in your jurisdiction. We know of them, so get them involved with your classes and education.
Yeah, definitely.
Jose, I saw your hand up. Go ahead. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Hi, my name's Jose. I'm the inaugural professor at San Diego State's new Brawley campus south of the Salton Sea. And I think this will be a great opportunity to seek, especially for some of my projects. I do have one concern though. I'm already having conversations with potential collaborators and local industry in the area, both for waterways and water municipalities, but as well as the lithium investors and lithium companies and geothermal companies. Um, I'm noticing a lot of collaboration. How much is their part of that collaboration emphasized in this work? Is it like equal? Is it kind of more of is their role more like a support role? Could you clarify a little bit on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're more interested in the fact that you've identified a partner, whether in some cases you're building that relationship. So Heidi, gave a great example of, she's just kind of starting in one phase, and then you can kind of scaffold that up to include them in more pieces of your work. So yeah, really when we're thinking about this, we're thinking if you haven't established a relationship, that's one thing we can help guide you through. And then in other cases, people just know people. I have a lot of former students that are now in agencies, and so I have an easier pathway into some agencies versus others. So we're more just kind of focused when we're evaluating applications on the fact that you have identified an entity or that you have some kind of plan for creating that relationship. And as far as the project, it could just be that they're advising or that they're creating opportunities for student engagement. So that can take on different forms. We don't necessarily say it's got to be 50-50, and that's really hard to determine based on resources, capacity, things of that nature. So, yeah.
That's very helpful. Thank you very much.
Great. And we should connect. We have a campus out there, and we're doing a lot with Salton Sea and Audubon and a whole bunch of different characters out there that are
Oh,
wonderful to work
awesome. Yeah.
with. So we'll
We're-
connect on a different level.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Is it pronounced Michael or
Michelle,
Michelle? Okay.
thank you. I've really enjoyed hearing. It's like I feel like the element of water, I can kind of see it in all of the presentations as a connector, and so I've really enjoyed this. Thank you so much. I guess my main question is, we've identified. So my main question is, I saw that there was something about water-centric curriculum or something like that. I'm in teacher education, and there's a lack of uh, environmental education, and most of my students don't even know where the water comes from or what watershed they're in, etc. And so, a colleague of mine in the art department, who's a land water based indigenous artist, we've been kind of collaborating and made a connection with the Tulare Basin Watershed Partnership folks, and so we're wanting to bring some of those, strengthen those connections. And so I was wondering, is it possible to apply for the grant if I'm not like a science based major, or if it's multiple subject education basically, and art students, or is this kind of like a water centric teaching kind of thing?
That's a plus, what you just said.
Yeah, those are
Loud
huge
and
plus.
clear, 100%. I saw
Yeah.
you're in the Kremen College of Education. We need more connection there, if anything.
Oh,
So please jump in the
fantastic.
ship. Right.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank
This
you.
is not discipline. I mean, if you're not environmental studies or one of these more traditional biology, things we think about naturally, this is wide open. And that's really the point of it. I mean, there's a lot of interdisciplinary points that we can start to make. And so we welcome really kind of dynamic interdisciplinary pathways like you're talking about and opportunities.
Yay,
I
thank
think the
you.
last thing you'll see from us is, oh, we're going to have a forum or workshop or something where this is just for civil engineers or this is just for political science people. No way. I was a faculty member for over 20 years, and it was frustrating, looking at these silos versus the real world. It doesn't work anymore. Look at innovative campuses across the Western US, and we don't have these ologies anymore. So, for example, Heidi, all the stuff you were talking about in the general biology, you got to be telling those students, I'm sure you are, because you're so thorough and excited about this. Take what we're learning here in this class and bring it to the chemistry classes that you have to have as a biology major, right? We need to integrate that stuff. And it can't be you go from one class to the next. You've got to bring it together. And the work you're doing is helping to reinforce that. We're always going to have those, ologies and colleges and such, but we need to work across that and understand what each other's doing. We don't communicate enough. So that's the fun part of CSU Water and the other affinity groups. We could have meetings and engagement of people who operate, think differently, but find common ground.
And I wanted to jump in there and say that, the focus, I am a biologist, but
Mhm.
it's a STEM education project, really, because the whole point was that I'm trying I'm trying to use the topic to improve the way my students are learning biology, but it's really a STEM education project. And also, I enjoy STEM education across all levels, not just, college. So we do a lot of community outreach to K through 12 schools as well. And you mentioned art. So my first year bio class, what I do at the end of the semester, the extra credit assignment that they get is to turn in an art assignment that relates to one of the topics that we covered in class. And I'll show you something. Just everything else is like in the lab, but this is one of the things that they turned in. So
Aw.
it's a picture of a bat, a butterfly, and a bird because it relates to convergent evolution. So they turn in an art piece, and then they also turn in 1 to 2 page description of how this relates to the science topic that they picked, and they have to, develop it. So, anyways, long story short is if you want to collaborate to do something, I'm already kind of employing certain things, but if you wanted to do something with the water thing, perfect. And can you imagine we would have like research CSU water proposals and then maybe in the back just like all the art maybe that was created by,
Yeah,
a program? That'd be so cool.
it's so awesome. So
So
Jennifer, with the other things you wanted to cover,
yeah, no, yeah, we'll share out this recording, the presentation as well, which has got the kind of deadlines and kind of, just the framework for the timeline. I'm going to go ahead and add our direct emails so you can reach out to me and Steve if you have any questions, if you want one-on-ones. Anything else we can help to clarify before we let you go? Okay, and then Steve had a
yeah.
couple of things he wanted to share real quick.
This
I'm
is,
sorry.
I get so
Go ahead.
excited. I love meetings like this because it's the beauty of the affinity groups and cross campus and everything else. So I'll try to keep this short, but I got so many exciting things.
Hang on, Steve, for one
Hi.
second. Chris, did you
Yeah.
have a question? I saw you.
I do, sorry. My name is Chris. I'm from East Bay, Cal State East Bay. I'm a new assistant professor in the School of Engineering. My background is in industrial engineering and operation research, but in the domain of energy, renewable energy, and water recycling. And my question specifically is that maybe you mentioned it, but throughout the presentation, I see that you have like 3 levels of C2C, Area 2, Area 3. And I was just wondering if each of these categories or levels have like, are you going to provide the institute to provide like a format or a template to fill out the proposal to apply to each of these three, or it's just a general application that we submit and then we select I'm applying to C2C. And
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. So it's a Qualtrics form, and then when you select your pathway, it leads you to certain questions. So not every application looks exactly the same because the end goals of each pathway is a little bit different. With that said, you could apply to all three pathways if you wanted
So,
to. Yeah.
okay,
Yes.
perfect.
You're not
So
limited by one if it makes sense in other areas.
So my follow-up question will be because I really like what Jackie did that just submit all the question to us because we have to wait until we select which area we apply to see the questions. Are we going to be able to see those questions of each application
Can I
beforehand?
Can I jump in? So, Chris, what
Yes.
I did is I don't know if I'm supposed to do this, but I filled the application out with just X's to get all the way through and see what it looked like, and I submitted it only with X's, and then I saw the application. So ignore that one, Jennifer. And then I
We
went through
deleted you already.
and I put it
And I
in
think it
with
was
everything
clever because you go granted. So, no, and no, I'm just asking and wondering because I'm like you. I would like to see beforehand, like questions to sit down, fresh ideas and write down those my ideas like before I submit my complete application. But yeah, that's why I'm asking if I will be able like to see each of this application before I submit it.
Yeah, definitely. And that's a good thought for us for next year is to just have a document that's got the questions, but you can just put X's in there. We go in if it's not complete. If your application's not complete, you don't move forward to the committee review. And so it gets pulled out of that database before it's shared.
Okay.
Thanks. So Heidi, could I do a few little overview here before people have to split off? So let's go smaller and think bigger. So the projects that were presented here, maybe you all have your own similar stories. And as faculty, we got to think about, like was covered in a couple op-eds in Nature in November. Think bigger in promotion. So, for example, we could fold these things together and what we funded and report it to CSU News, for example, what's happening. The greater good. Instead of having our each individual sources and small microphones, we get a big megaphone and draw attention to the great work and the impact you guys are doing. Furthermore, now with this cycle coming up, we'll have a great portfolio of what's happening across the system for greater impact. And that allows us in CSU Water to collect all that, market it, pitch it for external funding. And that's why we have that community student part. That is great marketing and outreach, and people want to fund that. So we could trickle that down and augment this program, for example. Then on that note, something that's coming up in January, we have and are building great connections with Metropolitan Water District of Southern California, the largest in the United States. And I talked to their research leaders last week, and it was so exciting. It's one of those meetings that go over time. And they invited me to present to the Southern California Research Network group. And so I'd love to have like, Heidi, Julian, and Jackie, what you guys covered. Because they asked me, oh, what do you do? I'm like, well, we could do anything. We're the CSU. Just give us 48 hours. We could put a team together. But I think they want more tangible stuff. And so what you three presenters and others here in the room could do is send us little snippets, whether it's slides, images from your classroom, or things like that. So when I present to this big group that want to fund stuff, particularly from students for a public entity like us, we have a package of stuff to show them to kind of get that catalyzed and get them thinking of real things that are already happening but need funding. Like Jackie, you're looking under the couch cushions for funding. I bet they could step up with some big money down there. So that's my thought. Like bring, funnel that stuff to us so we could package it and point to the greater good and then funnel that back to you through this program, right? Thanks. All right, Heidi, thank you.
Hi. Yes. So I have a question. So another thing I forgot to talk about because I got so excited about just talking about my class was that this has really led to because of social media and I post pictures and stuff, just what Steve was saying right now, right? Like how that could bring in more um support. I've gotten collaborators to do some research with my students in my lab. So last year, I worked with a nonprofit organization in Oregon. So I don't know, I forget what they're called now. But my question is, when we're looking for partners, if I wanted to apply to this program to work with somebody at a state, not necessarily this continuous collaboration throughout the year in the way that I'm thinking about it for my class, is it possible to apply for funds with people outside? I guess
Yeah.
I'm wondering how strong of a collaboration there needs
Yes,
to be.
Jackie, you connected me to that group, and I met with their general manager
Yeah,
and the research director.
yeah.
And they said they don't currently have funding. I don't understand that. But I think for any entity, no matter where they are in California or beyond, ask them. You're never going to get what you don't ask for. Ask them if they could match what you're applying for from us. That's only fair. And you'd
Hmm.
be surprised, like for nonprofits, even they have money and they want to fund, but you'll never know. They're not going to offer it. You got to ask and show the greater good you're doing. It's
Right.
only $2,000, $5,000 or more
Right.
you could get.
Yeah.
So everybody out there, come with your project pitches and see if you could secure some commitment or some probability of a match. That'll make things clear and you can do bigger work and get it more connected. So great, Heidi. Great question.
Yeah.
And thanks to everyone for attending. I understand it's finals and everything else. I have the tiger. We're all so close, but I put our emails in the chat. And so please just reach out. We're happy to hop on a quick Zoom call, just any questions that you have that if you want to write something up, shoot us an email. We can respond that way as well. So please don't feel like you've got any barriers to applying. If we know about those barriers, we can help to fill those gaps for you. So that's, part of why we're here and a real strength of CSU Water. And we hope to see you at the conference in April in San Diego. Beautiful time of year to be there. So hopefully you can bring some students and come join us down there. We'll have a lot of various partners, some really dynamic speakers, and then opportunities to start meeting other faculty and think about collaborations. Well,
Great.
thanks again, everyone. We appreciate you attending today.